There's no such thing as sight reading. And modes are probably not what you think they are. The idea that a mode is a diatonic scale starting on a pitch other than the tonic, so a major or minor scale starting on note 2 or note 3 or note 4. This is the most basic and remedial kindergarten understanding of modes, and like many things that we learn in kindergarten, once you gain more of an understanding, those things turn out to not be true. For example, when you're in kindergarten, they told you that 1 is the first number and 2 is the second number. But as you become more advanced in math, you find out that you have an infinite number of numbers before you ever get to 1. You have negative integers, and you also have an infinite number of numbers between 1 and 2. So the idea that 1 is the first number and 2 is the second number, that was only true at your current level of understanding at the time. And once you gain more conceptual understanding, that just becomes false. The same is true of modes. So for example, the D Dorian scale is not simply a C major scale starting on note 2, starting on D. That would be the stepping stone kindergarten explanation of the skill, which later turns out to just not be true anymore. A D Dorian scale's job is not to start on D. It doesn't have to start on D. A D Dorian scale's job is to sound like a D minor 7 chord. We've talked about how you can build a chord, an arpeggio, on any note of the scale by visualizing line, line, liner, space, 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 and plugging in the key signature. If we start on note 2 of the C scale, note 2 is D, D would be a space, D, F, A, C, and you build a chord, you get a D minor 7 chord. So a D Dorian scale's job is not to start on D. A D Dorian scale's job is to sound like a D minor 7 chord. A D Dorian scale is the melodic presentation of a D minor 7 chord. A D minor 7 chord is the harmonic presentation of a D Dorian scale. It's the same sound. One's a harmony, one's a melody. For every harmony, there's a representative melody. For every melody, there is a representative harmony. And this concept is called chord-scale relationship. So there are ways to modify the D Dorian scale to make it sound like the D minor 7 chord. The starting pitch is irrelevant. D minor 7 chord doesn't have to have D in the root. You can have F in the root, you can have A in the root. Those are called inversions. Same is true of a D Dorian scale. There are ways to modify the mode to make it sound like the chord that it represents. And so, for example, for a D Dorian scale, and we'll talk about this in more detail as we become more advanced, but you can add the accidentals necessary to create the dominant chord, leading your ear to hear D as the root. You can also add chromatic passing tones to cause the notes of the D minor 7 chord to fall on the downbeats, which would create the sonority of that harmony. And once you modify the scale to make it representative of the chord, two things happen. Number one, the starting note's irrelevant. D Dorian doesn't have to start on D anymore. And number two, once you add those modifications, a D Dorian scale doesn't have the same notes in it as a C scale anymore, right? You've changed some of them. You've added some to it, right? If you just play the C scale starting on D, that's just a C scale starting on D. That's not its own thing. That's right? Until you add those modifications, right? Any scale can start on any letter of the musical alphabet. The starting note is irrelevant. So, scales and chords are not defined by the root. This is another example of how scale sheets make you worse. My name's Mark Dooley. I've been a private music teacher for 36 years, focused on practical theory and music literacy. If you'd like to hear more, follow me. If you'd like lessons, contact me. If you can learn how to read words, you can learn how to read music.